Today's video will be about what the Amazing Spider-Man 5 should have looked like. And if you haven't watched my previous videos yet, make sure to check them out so the story makes more sense. Let's begin. The movie starts with Spider-Man once again helping the city fight crime. However, people and the media continue questioning whether Spider-Man can truly be trusted again. Even while Spider-Man helps the police stop criminals, the police still attempt to arrest him. In the next scene, Spider-Man helps Shocker create a new arm through mutation experiments. Spider-Man and the former criminal have now become friends. Shocker's mother has fully recovered after her treatment. The experiment takes place inside the underground laboratory created by Peter's father, the same hidden location Peter discovered in the second movie. Using his father's formulas, Peter successfully mutates a brand new arm for Shocker. In the next scene, Peter visits the cemetery. He walks past Gwen Stacy's grave, then Captain Stacy's, before finally reaching Aunt May's grave. Peter breaks down crying because everything has become too much for him. And this is where we finally get the scene from the cancelled movies where Peter's father reveals that he is actually alive. Richard Parker approaches Peter at the grave and says, "Peter, I know what the symbiote is capable of. None of this was your fault." He hugs him. Richard explains that he helped create the symbiote years ago and warns Peter that the project was never completed because the symbiote was far too dangerous. He also reveals that Norman Osborn once told him the symbiote had been destroyed. In the following scenes, Peter and his father slowly rebuild their relationship while working together in the underground lab. Meanwhile, Venom begins attacking random people across the city in order to attract Peter's attention. At this point, Spider-Man saves countless civilians and once again hears crowds chanting, "Spider-Man! Spider-Man! Spider-Man!" This enrages Venom even more, causing him to directly attack Spider-Man. Spider-Man manages to outsmart Venom because Venom fights with pure rage and aggression. Peter traps Venom inside giant webbing and finally discovers who Venom's host truly is. It's Flash Thompson. Peter is shocked. Flash looks at him and says, "You took everything from me. Now it's time for the whole world to know what it feels like to be me." Venom breaks free from the webs and suddenly begins infecting nearby civilians, turning them into smaller Venom creatures. Peter realizes he cannot stop all of them alone and escapes to find his father. Together, Peter and Richard create an antidote capable of destroying the symbiote infection. However, Richard warns Peter that Flash will die if he is still bonded to the symbiote when the antidote is injected. Only the main symbiote needs to die for everyone go back to normal because the main one is controlling others telepathically. Peter swings through the city searching for Venom while fighting off the smaller infected creatures along the way. Spider-Man then broadcasts a message through the media, warning civilians to evacuate the city because he has created a cure. He also publicly admits that he himself was once infected by the symbiote and says he deeply regrets everything he did during that time. Eventually, Spider-Man finds Venom and the two begin an incredibly brutal battle. Throughout the fight, Peter desperately tries convincing Flash that he wants to save him. But Venom responds, "There is no Flash. We are Venom." Spider-Man begins losing the fight. At one point, Venom grabs Peter and prepares to consume him alive. But suddenly, Richard Parker arrives and jumps directly onto Venom. Venom violently throws Richard across the room. Peter gets back to his feet, but he still refuses to use the antidote because he fears killing Flash. Peter eventually lures Venom into a construction materials factory and uses loud industrial noises to weaken the symbiote. Spider-Man finally succeeds in separating Flash from Venom. But during the struggle, the antidote falls onto the ground. Peter is exhausted and can barely move anymore. The symbiote slowly approaches him, preparing to kill him once and for all. But at the last moment, Flash grabs the antidote and injects it directly into the symbiote. The symbiote violently melts away. In the next scene, we see all the infected people across the city finally returning to normal. Peter later approaches Flash, attempting to apologize for everything he did to him. But Flash says nothing. Terrified and emotionally broken, he simply begins crying before running away. In the next scene, Peter returns to the skyscraper where his father was staying. He finds Richard dying. With his final words, Richard tells Peter, "With great power comes great responsibility." In the final scenes of the movie, we see Peter once again working together with the police to protect the city. And for the first time in a long time, the people finally love Spider-Man again. And that would be the ending of The Amazing Spider-Man 5. I hope you enjoyed this video, and don't forget to check out my previous parts so the story makes more sense.